our friend from the Green Light Pod, the great two-time Super Bowl champ, our friend Chris Long. Back on the program. How are you, Chris? Good to see you.
Rich, I'm pretty good. How are you, brother?
I'm good. TJ Jefferson's a diehard Cowboy fan. We started the show by getting up, which is not great for radio. You know, when you get away from your microphones and you walk, all three of us went up. We gave him a group hug.
Yeah, no, it's good, though. Reset the energy in the studio.
Yeah. TJ, did it reset the energy or did not reset the energy?
I mean, it did something. I don't know what. But yeah, it made me feel good that you guys thought enough.
Yeah, but Mike Del Tufo, the troll from New Jersey, was cackling the entire time. I don't think that wasn't the spirit of it, Mike.
Dude, I feel bad. I feel bad for Cowboys fans. I'm not even going to be like rubbing it in. You know?
I will for you. Thanks,
I do.
Chris.
I'm empathetic. I'm an empathetic guy, dude.
Yeah.
I can imagine, because you guys get it the worst because, a lot of people hated me when I came in the league because I come from an NFL family. There's history there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for being like a Dallas Cowboys fan under the age of 40. Like, yeah, but I didn't get to enjoy all that stuff in the 90s.
True.
I was a kid and all that. But for most of your adult life, I actually feel like you guys have it harder than most.
I said this once, like 2 weeks ago, Chris. I'm like, the thing about being a Cowboys fan is fans from other teams would rather us lose than their team win sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean that's life. That's life in the big metroplex city is basically what some might say, and Mike would be cackling as he says it. But back on the Rich Eisen Show radio network, our friend Chris Long from the Green Light with Chris Long podcast and Inside the NFL on the CW joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. So I'll just hit you with this one straight up: is what would you be thinking if you were in the Dallas Cowboy locker room right now?
I would be thinking, like Cancun sounds great, but the beaches aren't that nice. I'm more of a British Virgin Island guy.
Okay.
Guy, and I feel like I would be looking down there, like at Virgin Gorda or something like that, because like Cancun's great and the whole thing, and there's a lot of fun things to do. But I don't want to just sit at the beach. The surf can get kind of big. You get the red flags out there. You can't even get in the water. I would be looking in the Caribbean.
Okay, very good. So other than travel plans, you're cleaning out your locker.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really doesn't. I think if you're a Dallas Cowboy, like as a football player, it's kind of impossible unless you've been there the whole time. Like say somebody like Dak. You don't feel you feel the pressure, but you don't feel all these losses that like Jerry Jones has felt since 2000. We went through this just a second ago, and this is going to blow your mind, or maybe it doesn't, but he's had enough. And I think this is where you take a big swing at, say, like a Bill. I think if you're Atlanta, you were rooting for Dallas to win that game because that if they lose that game, everybody's going to be putting Bill in Dallas, and maybe Bill likes Dallas. But if you're Jerry Jones, think about what you've watched this century. 2006, Romo fumbles the ball. 2007, you had Romo on the beach with Jessica Simpson. You're the first team since the playoffs expanded to lose as the number one seed in the divisional round. 2009, 34-3 to the Vikings. So bad Wade Phillips thought you were rubbing the score in. Then you get Dez caught it in 2014, and this is where it gets crazy. 2016, you got this rookie quarterback, Dakota Prescott. You got Zeke Elliott. We got hope. Even if we lose this game to an MVP candidate, it's Dak's first start in the playoffs. You know how that game ended. It was Aaron Rodgers' magic. You probably felt like the Texans feel like right now in 2016, like we're going to be special. We're going to be here a while. But 7 years later, guys, you lose to that same team who replaced that MVP candidate from 2016 with a guy making his first start, and he beats your MVP candidate. And now you have to fire the coach from the other sideline in 2016. So you've tried everything. And if I was Jerry, I wouldn't continue to try put all my eggs in the basket of when Tony was done, everybody was like, Dak's going to be different. They were both 2-4 in the playoffs going into yesterday. Now Dak's 2-5. So, I think it's crazy that you're right back where you started, where you replaced Tony Romo. And I'm not saying that's 100% that you replaced Dak, and I don't want to take anything away from him. A month or two ago before the Buffalo game, I said, he might deserve the MVP. But the MVP is not an assurance that you're the guy of the future. I've seen Tua was in the MVP race. There's plenty of guys that have been talked about as MVP caliber players because they have these great seasons. But if you'd have told me this is going to end like this, what does that even matter? This was bad.
So, and the thing about Belichick, I even, had my moment on the Twitter machine during the game when it was 20-0. I put out that GIF from the combine of Belichick grabbing a chip, eating it, and then putting up his binoculars to look at the field. But it does seem to make sense because Bill, if he's going to want to join a team, I would think he'd want to join Dallas with a ton of great defensive parts, with a quarterback that you don't have to do anything except maybe imbue your sensibilities into, right? The issue is, though, if you fire McCarthy, the play caller during the season, he was terrific,
he was
right?
a good play caller, man.
So
he was a good play caller, and that's why I think it kind of falls on the quarterback too. And like if you're looking at doing a full reset, like so be it. But I don't think it's as automatic a decision for Bill. You'd have to first backtrack and say what motivates Bill at this point. Mm-hmm. Bill just wants to prove that he can win, right? Like I would think. And I look at Atlanta and I look at the division, right? You could be coaching against whoever David Tepper hires, Dennis Allen possibly, and Todd Bowles. Like you have an advantage there right away. That division's not great. And, you talk about pass catchers, the thing they haven't had in New England. Like they have some guys down there in Atlanta now. You also have to think, like, would I rather work with Jerry Jones or Arthur Blank? And I don't know. That's something you'd have to ask Bill. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. But when Bill respects somebody, he really does. And I think he could work with an owner that he respects. And also, like, McKay in Atlanta, like, he might look at that as a positive. McKay's really well respected. Guy's been around a long time. The GM wasn't even at the press conference, so he's not going to be in the way. It just comes down to what the organizational structure, I think, is for Bill.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. What did you make of the Chiefs win? Was there a flip of a switch? What do you think here? How do you term it?
I'd love to say a flip of the switch. I think the biggest thing, though, for the Chiefs, like they had advantages everywhere, right? Like I think they're the better coach team. I like Mike McDaniel, but like, the disciplinary stuff, the third downs, there were like 4 or 5 third downs in this game where if you got third manageable in that weather, the way they are, you feel good. But they false started. They had illegal formations. They had a bunch of stuff that knocked him back. They also just didn't seem to be, and I know this is so cliche and I hate it, but they didn't seem as ready to play in the cold as Kansas City. Like one of those plays after false start, I think on cheat on a 3rd and 8. I posted this. It was the only thing I saw on the play was L'Jarius Sneed with those long ass arms reaching out and put him on Cheetah and then, pushing him down into the ground. Like that was the best jam I've seen all weekend. We talk about press coverage and why L'Jarius Sneed's so great. And then I also remember a play where late in the game, and it was obvious at this point that it wasn't going to be Miami's day. Like they throw the ball out to Waddle and the ball took a while to get there. And Sneed just top down, breaks the ball up. It's on Miami's sideline, and he walks off he slings Waddle. He walks towards the Dolphins bench, and they're all standing there in their coats. And I can't get this picture out of my head. L'Jarius Sneed, who's an absolute alpha, who was ready to play, staring 3 to 4 Dolphins down for a solid 2 seconds. So the ref was like, all right, come on back here. They didn't move. Nobody moved a muscle. When you get to mug up the other team's sideline, like that was Kansas City in a nutshell in this game. And then the advantage at quarterback. Mahomes' ball cuts through the wind, man. They had the confidence to come out and throw the ball 3 times to start the game.
Right.
First 2 throws, one of them sails, one of them Kelsey drops the ball. I remember this vividly, them zooming in on Patrick, and his face was kind of like, damn, this is going to be tough, huh? But like, here we go. And he proved why he's, the best quarterback on the planet, the past 5-7 years in this league. And the other guy, Tua, I don't want to drill this thing into the ground, but people are now catching up to, is he the answer? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But overall, if you couldn't run the ball here, you weren't going to have a good day. And they couldn't. Kansas City's more physical. Kansas City's more disciplined. Kansas City has a better quarterback. Not a shock to me.
Yeah, and that's the point, because again, I would ask you about the Dolphins, but you have asked and answered that in multiple appearances prior to this Monday one, Chris. So that's why I asked about the Chiefs, because they may finally have to play a playoff game out of Arrowhead next week if the Bills beat the Steelers today.
The rest advantage.
That's it. Well, I mean, and then it just comes down to what can the Chiefs do what they've done in past years, and that is the AFC question. If the Bills go ahead and win this thing, other than the fact of how real are the Texans, I mean, and I guess this is one way to put it all together. Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. We've got a graphic from the two kids that started their first career playoff starts. Do you, Chris Long, wish to start? Maybe we can do this together. You want to start drumming, beating the drum for a Texans-Packers Super Bowl, Chris?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
What do you think here?
Anything is possible. I know you asked me who are the teams that are capable of beating the Ravens. Well, anybody's capable of beating anybody. They were like the Bills, I think, have the best chance of anybody remaining. I think the Chiefs, it's possible, right? Like Texans, they played week one. Looking back at that game, I don't think there's much you can take from it, but it was 25-9. I think the Texans are dangerous, man. Like they have that belief about them. CJ is just as good as just about anybody in the league, the way he's throwing the ball right now. And so, but I think with the Chiefs, the one thing that they had going for them last night, you say, hey, the passing game and maybe the confidence that they gathered,
yes,
just going through it works in their favor. But the Dolphins being down guys up front and on the edge, and Patrick having all that time, I'm not sure we really saw that all season. That's not something I got used to seeing this year, because the thing that doesn't get made a big deal enough with Kansas City, all we talk about is wide receivers, the tackles.
Oh,
those were two decisions that they made, right? And
yeah,
you talk about giving the pass game time to develop, and that guy's under siege back there for a lot of the year. So not being under siege, if you give Mahomes that kind of time, he can make it work with those guys. And that's not necessarily going to be the case everybody they play.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. The Rams and Lions were as good as advertised, man. That was great. I mean, physical, paint swapping. I mean, just really laying the wood the entire time. And then, Goff making some terrific throws in the first half. That first down to end it was a terrific I guess gutsy, if you want to put it, risk. And Stafford was slinging it. I mean, I don't know if anybody throws a prettier ball than him, from different angles. Right?
I feel like the longer, and I want to make Detroit the lead here, because make no mistake about it, not only an amazing football game, one of the best wild card games I can remember in the past, 10 years. I'd have to go back through the list, but huge win for Detroit. These wins are so big. Number one, it buys time. Like Dan Campbell can say, hey, I won a playoff game here. Jared Goff can say, hey, I won a playoff game here. And I think the belief that it gives those guys is great, and they deserve it. Like, what a run. And to beat Matt Stafford, your worst nightmare staring you in the face right across the sideline there. Your coach that got rid of you, that didn't like you, and the quarterback that everybody loves in this city, and he played his best game and you beat him. Like, Matt Stafford was on fire. And I think it's crazy and I have so much respect for the guy. The older he gets, the more his career goes. Like, how rare is it to see a quarterback that you almost respect more as his career goes on? There's Detroit where you're like, yeah, but it's a bunch of yards, but. And then he goes to LA and he wins. And then, he gets up off the mat. And there's a lot of people like me that didn't think he'd have this in him this year. But when you talk to quarterbacks, they're like, dude, the guy's got a jugs machine on his shoulder. He's going to last forever. And he's so tough. You can think whatever you want about, I think he was out cold at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. It's not great for the league, but it's playoff football. And if I'm him, I'm trying to get up too. And the way he banged his hand, how nasty that looked, to be able to hang in there. What a game from both these quarterbacks. But I think it came down to ultimately the Rams got 15 pressures. If you let Goff have a clean pocket back there, he's going to pick you apart. The ball didn't touch the ground until the second quarter. And, a lot of the guys, and I think Raheem did a great job this year. I think he did a great job. Dan Quinn's doing interviews for head coaching jobs. Look at how the defense looked yesterday. Raheem has worked some magic back there for the Rams, and he kept the points down largely. I mean, it looked like for stretches of the game, they weren't going to be able to get a stop.
They had a shot. They had a shot in this game. I mean, it came down in the fourth quarter where, they had a holding penalty that knocked them out of field goal range, and then couldn't get close enough. Right. The Hutch was coming from wide. I mean, like he was practically an 8 Mile. It was where he was getting in his stance. You know what I mean?
That's another reason, Rich, why we can't overrate sacks. Because the guy had 2 of them. They were like fall on a guy, and he played his ass off. Mm-hmm. He had 2 sacks where he's just touching a guy down. The biggest play he made that night, and it will not go on the stat sheet, is that hold. Because McVay he's dictated that, it's a 4-minute drive or so, but at that point in the game, they're not in a hurry. And I think to him, he's like, if we kick a field goal, we don't want to leave them much time. And so we are going to take our time. We're going to go on one of these long drives, which they came up empty on in the second half, 2 6-minute drives for field goals. But I did not agree with on third down. I know they had been aggressive on 3rd and long in some possible 4-down situations. I did not agree with taking that shot on 3rd and long. I would have said, let's take the profit and make a decision here. Whether we kick or whether we go again.
I guess he wanted Nakua. That was a penalty. I mean, he was grabbed. Nakua was unbelievable.
Detroit fans are going to say, hey, that was offsides before the half. And sure. I also thought that was a really bad sequence for the Rams too, because you're down 21-17. And this is the way I think. I know it's not automatic, but the way they were moving the ball, if the Rams get the ball back after Jared Goff throws it backwards, first off, you pressured him finally. He did the thing, and you didn't capitalize. And then 3rd and 15, you give up a back-breaking conversion, and they don't get points out of it because you get bailed out. But the bottom line is you get the ball out of the half, and you can't do a 2-for-1 because you're backed up with under a minute. You could have had the ball punted to you at their 35, punting the ball. Instead, it's the 45 with 1 minute to go. And to me, that sequence is so huge. You don't come out of the half and get points. Detroit ekes out a field goal. Laporta grabbing those extra yards was huge. But that's a situation now where it's 24-17 and the game is being played on their terms. The Rams could have given them the ball back up 31-21 at some point in the third quarter, but they missed their chance for the 2-for-1.
Man, I love talking ball with you, brother, and it was great being on your pod last week. I would love for anybody who watches or listens to this show, please seek that out with you on Greenlight Pod. It was great. Anytime. You know that.
We'd love it. We'd love for you to come back, Rich. Good talking to you, man.
Same here. Let's do it again next week. All right. There you go.